Hi there and welcome to the video. My name's Gareth and firstly I'm going to apologise because I've got a bit of a sore throat and so I'm losing my voice a little bit, so I apologise for the raspiness of my voice. But this video I wanted to introduce you to a software called Drawthings, which is actually a Mac/iPhone only software. But it's something that I've started using a while ago for generations of Flux and Stable Diffusion based models. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to run you through the general layout of this if you're interested. Not going to be a full tutorial because I'm going to link in the description box below. There's an excellent channel called Cutscene Artist, and they have got tons of very specific and very in-depth tutorials on Drawthings, how to get it set up, what all the parameters do, from beginners to more advanced functions. So it'd be pointless me basically replicating those and probably not doing as good a job. So I'm going to very happily link you to that channel where I learned a lot from it as well, so you can find out some more specific information over there. But for now I'm just going to give you the general layout as it's generating some images here in the background. So on the left hand side we've got a projects, settings, scripts and PEFT icons here. Now projects, it just gives you a little project list. I can't click on it at the moment because it's generating images, so I'll stop that in a second. In fact, I'll stop it now. Okay, so that'll give you a list of projects, and this is just projects, the way to organize your files. So each project will contain its own specific parameters saved and the images it's generated, etc. Settings, this is the main screen where we have all our settings and prompt boxes and things. Script, you can download and import and generate different scripts here, which is just really fantastic. There's some really good default ones you can download to help you with things like face detailing and things like that. But there's really there's a great sort of community element to this as well if you use the Discord. And PEFT, which is basically training LoRa's, which I'm definitely not going to get into in this video, but again, check out the Cutscene Artist YouTube channel. They've got a really good recent video on how to train LoRa's using the software for SDXL, FLUX, and another model as well, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a fantastic resource. So I'm going to go to settings, and we've got three tabs at the top here. We've got basic, we've got advanced, and we've got all. Now I'm actually going to just rerun some of these images, so we've got something else in the background. So basic shows you just the parameters you need to generate images at the fundamental level, and that's it. And then advanced and eventually all will just open up more parameters to the user. Now the reason why you would want to have basic selected is if you're just tweaking parameters to your images and just rerunning, you're not having to scroll through as many options. I tend to have all on mine all the time because I'm familiar with where everything is and what everything does to a certain extent. But for basic, it's definitely a good place to get started because it's only showing you things that really matter to fundamental image creation. So like at the top, we've got model. So I've got Flux 1 dev here, you can see, 8-bit, so 8-bit version. And you can obviously open that to change your model, and you can download loads of different models from within this software, so you don't even have to leave the software to get other Flux models, SDXL, SD models. There's video model in there now. There's tons of models you can download from within this software, so you don't need to go to Hugging Face, you don't need to go to civitai.com to get a lot of the fundamental bread and butter models, as I call them. And then underneath that you've got your LoRa, your space where you would import your custom LoRa's. Control net there, you click that and you could again install specific control net and related functions for Flux or whatever model you need. Image to image strength sort of options here, standard seed values, image dimensions underneath, or standard stuff, number of steps, your guidance/CFG slider here, your sampler options. Now these are going to appear differently. If you've used something like Comfy UI, you get a lot more flexibility in that software in terms of samplers and schedulers. You can it sort of splits it apart, and you can have a lot more different combinations of settings and things like that. But for me personally, the options that it gives you if I just stop this within draw things, they don't appear exactly the same as you may see in other software, but there'll be the familiar terms here for sure. And it's a good combination of not having to worry about it at all. Like on replicate.com, you don't even get a choice of changing the sampler type. It just puts on the default advised one in the background. Whereas here, you at least get a choice. So for Flux, for example, anything with trailing at the end is what you want. So there's a few options there. And either the Euler ancestral trailing is kind of a generically recommended one for Flux. I like using this one for a little bit more detail, or I feel it gives a bit more detail, but it's slower. And, you know, you get to play around, so there's still a good scope for experimentation there. And then you've got the shift value at the bottom, which I'm not going to go into here. And so as you can see in the middle, we've got our images generated. We've got a prompt in the sort of center at the top. And then we've got negative prompt to the side, which I'm not going to use for Flux because it doesn't really work on standard Flux anyway, on the distilled versions. And then to the right hand side of that, we've got all of our previews of all of our generated images. We can just click on, and this is obviously project independent. So you create a new project, and these will still remain in the previous project until you delete them. And you can download them by clicking on this download button up here. Or if you go to the more advanced settings, you can go down near the bottom and there's an option that says save generated images to, and then you can choose a default folder, which from that point onwards, everything you generate within this project will automatically dump the images into that folder. A couple of other things here, like there's an interrogate option here. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but that's basically an image interrogator model that you download, and then you can throw in external images in here, and it will give you a brief prompt based on the image. And yeah, there's a couple of other options here which are not useful now, so I'll leave that. So just have a quick look at the actual images that we've been generating in the background. So you can see I've got a fairly simple prompt here. Portrait photo of an adult panda in a natural habitat carrying a knitted toy doll of baby panda. Just kind of a cute prompt I thought was quite fun. And as you can see, it's been generating these in the background, lots of nice variants. This is what I would call a bit of a misnomer with, I don't know if that's the right term, but with Flux specifically, there seems to be this thought line, this process that people talk about, where it's almost implied that you have to have a really long, convoluted prompt with lots of descriptions and lots of specifics in order to get great images from Flux. It is simply not true. The fact that the language model embedded were like, yes, it can handle that, and you can give it large, descriptive, very wordy prompts, and it will be able to run with that. That's definitely true, but you do not need it. So you just see a ton of these prompts that people just get generated in like ChatGPT or whatever, whatever other thing, and they're super wordy. And the problem is, if you start off with a prompt that big and that wordy, it's more difficult to make tweaks based on it. Whereas if you start off with a prompt yourself that you've come up with yourself and not been generated by a long wordy LLM or something, then you can do things like this. So I started off here. This is my first prompt, carrying a plushy toy doll of a baby panda, and it gave me that. And I thought there's not enough distinction there between the two. They both look like a kind of a real panda-ish. So then I just simply changed it to a knitted toy doll. So not plushy, a knitted doll, bonk. And then I started getting more appropriate results to what I had in my mind. Whereas if you see these sort of huge prompts that people are on lines and lines long, and you could have one of those, and it wouldn't give you potentially any better quality result if you're a little bit more open to certain elements of it, like the colours and things like that. But yeah. Sorry, that was went a little bit off the subject there, but that's just my little rant about these absolutely massive prompts that you see people writing. There's nothing wrong with them, but you definitely don't need to have them in order to generate fantastic results in Flux.